All right, welcome back for episode number 5 of the Cuboh Restaurant Tech Podcast. Today we're talking restaurant websites. Now, there is an absolute ton involved in launching a new restaurant, a new ghost kitchen, a new virtual brand, but your website should absolutely not be overlooked. Right? Okay, so why is it so important? First of all, it's going to increase your brand awareness. It's going to help introduce people to your brand. So, for a lot of people, they need a way to find out about you. Okay, they might hear about you from a friend or through social media or something, but for a lot of them, your website is going to be their first interaction with your restaurant, their first interaction with your brand. So, having a website, having a great website, is going to help people find you, find out about your food, out about your vibe, and what you stand for. And it's going to be a great way to introduce yourself to potential customers. It also tells them a bit about you. It's not just enough for them to know you exist, right? It teaches them about what types of food you do and where you're located and what are your hours and so on and so forth. It can provide them with a ton of useful information that they can get really easily by just visiting your site. And then the last thing I'll add is that a good website can boost your SEO. And so, what's SEO? That's search engine optimization. And that essentially means having a good website is going to help make it easier, help increase the chance that you rank on Google and Bing and other search engines, Google obviously being the biggest one. And so when someone searches burrito near me or burrito California or whatever, there'll be a higher opportunity, a higher chance of your restaurant ranking if you have an effective website, effective SEO, which we'll touch on a bit more. So, how do you actually go about building a restaurant website? You're committed, you're on board. Okay, what do you actually need to do? So, the first thing is take a step back, have a plan. What do you actually want to achieve with your website? Are you going to offer online ordering? Is it strictly a place for your hours and address, or are you going to have a more sophisticated website where you're doing an about us and maybe doing a blog or other types of content? Just take a step back for a second, come up with a plan, come up with some goals, think about why you're making a website, what you want to get out of it, and then that's going to help guide the next steps. So the next thing to keep in mind is to know your audience. Know what people you're trying to serve and how they would use your website. Perhaps if you have, an older demographic, having an online ordering might not be as necessary. Maybe then it's having your phone number front and center for people that like to phone call, like want to be able to give someone a real human a show and give them a call and book their reservation like that. Or maybe you're dealing more with millennials and Gen Zs and they actually would rather book online than have to call. They'd rather use, Open Table, or they'd rather you have a reservation system on your website instead of having to call up and actually book it themselves. So take a second and consider your audience. Look into your data, look into your demographics, your psychographics, look into your customer segments, and then tailor how you're actually going to build the website to that audience. Next is to build a brand. So that means it's not just your logo, but that does include things like, your logo, the color choices you're using on the site, the font choices you're using, the overall experience that you're trying to build, create the emotional connection people are having with the site. That'll have to do with the image choices you use. Are you using stock photos? Are you using real photos? Are you using illustrations? Are you, the list goes on and on for potential branding opportunities. So build a brand, come up with a logo, come up with perhaps all this stuff you already have, but make sure before you actually get into downloading a tool or purchasing a website builder, have your brand outlined ahead of time. So the next is exactly that: purchasing a tool, finding a website builder that you like. There's a ton out there. Some of them are more complicated, some of them are easier, some of them are no code, some of them have to be coded. And it really boils down to what level of customization you require, what level of technical skills and ability you have or you have on the team. So pick a tool that works for you and then create a template, an intuitive template that works for your restaurant. Now, this, you could buy one, you could pick a free one, you could custom build one. I custom build is probably not the way to go if you're completely new to this, but if you're looking to create a really unique site, then there may not be a template that's quite right for you. So pick a template or create a template that's intuitive, that's easy to use, that's not overly complicated, and start building it. Start filling it with content, adding your images, adding your about me, adding a blog post, adding your contact information, adding your careers page if you're hiring. Start adding this content, building out this content using that template that you just created. Next is optimization. So this is a big topic. Website optimization. I mean, there's a whole industry around it, but there are simple things you can do to make sure you're optimizing your site effectively. Number one would be use images. Show off your food. Show off some high quality food photography. Show off some great pics of your dishes, of your team, of your space. It's going to help build your brand. It's going to help educate people on what your food looks like, what your space looks like, what you're all about. And it's also going to support SEO by using alt text and creating a better experience for the customers so that they actually stay on the page longer and signal to Google that this is actually a great page, that people are liking the page. So there are a ton of benefits to having high quality images. Number two, page speed. So when you go about adding your images and content and other things, use the Google Page Speed Insights Checker to make sure that your website isn't super slow. There's data out there that essentially a ton of your traffic will leave if your page takes too long to load. If it takes too long, they're just not even going to wait for it. As well, that negatively impacts your SEO, having slow load time. So take a second to optimize your page speed. Now, that usually means optimizing the images, making sure they're the right size, they're not too big. There are other tools out there you can use to compress images, shrink them down, increase that page speed. It also means things like elements on the website. These page speed tools often tell you exactly what you need to do. So run the insights, take a look at what it's telling you is slowing down your website. Maybe you already have a great score and this isn't something you need to worry about. But if you do have a low score, make sure you're addressing it. Next is to make the site informative. Make it valuable for people. They don't just want to know you're there. They want to know what you're about. They want to know your hours. They want to know where you're located. You need to build that trust with people. So make your site informative. Make it easy for people to find out what they actually want to know. Maybe that means having an FAQ section, a frequently asked questions section. Maybe that means talking to your team about what type of questions do people ask when they call in. And there's a ton of simple things you can do to make your site as informative as possible. The next optimization tip is to make it user friendly. Make it easy for people to find the right information and to click around, to scroll. There's basically, two main things we're talking about here. We're talking about the functionality and the visuals. So just make sure it's easy for people. Perhaps ask someone to go on your site and navigate around a little bit, or try to order online, or and then get their feedback on what was difficult, what wasn't clear, what was unintuitive about the experience. So just make it as user friendly as possible. Next, consider offering an online menu. Consider offering online ordering directly on your website. This is a great way to show off all your food items, all your menu items, the modifications, so on and so forth. It's a great way to drive additional sales. And for people that are coming to your website and would prefer to order online, you're giving them another way. You're catering to that need. You're giving them a way that they want, the way that they want to order. So consider having an online menu. There are inexpensive tools out there that can actually cut down. Delivery apps take a bigger commission, for instance, than if you were to use a white label ordering menu. So, be sure to consider at least offering an online menu. And then the last tip I'll just throw out there is you may want to get some help with this. Reach out to your community, to your network, maybe hire a local agency or something like that. Find someone on your team that's particularly adept at website building. You never know what kind of people you might come across. So if you need it, reach out for help. Websites can be complicated. They can be a bit technical, and for restaurant operators, that might not be something they have a ton of experience with. So if you need it, reach out for help. So that wraps up our podcast on restaurant websites. I mean, a website is absolutely critical for your restaurant's success. Having an online presence, growing your online presence, optimizing your site, getting found on Google, doing that SEO, all of this stuff is going to help your restaurant be more successful. And without it, you may even find success a bit of a challenge. So websites are absolutely critical for restaurants. I hope this episode has given you some more insight into either how to actually set up a restaurant, a website for your restaurant, or how to optimize your existing site. So go give your site an audit if you already have one. Do a sanity check, give it a once over, run the page speed insights, and re-listen to the tips on optimization if you need to. If you have any questions about restaurant websites, about building a website, if you have any comments about the episode, any feedback for us, I would absolutely love to hear it. But in the meantime, I will just say thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great day.